What's up, Laugh Chan fams? Finally, I made it back up to the Rowdy Trout Ranch with Mike and Todd, the two brothers, the two guides, what do you call them, fly guides, whatever. Today, got kind of a good show lined up. We're going to talk about fly lines, sink tips, stuff like that. We're going to talk about some tippets, the differences between them, and then we're going to see if Rocco Taco even got the essentials in his fly bag and break it down, see what we got in there and how to use it and stuff like that. So, from there, Todd, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for being up.
Thank you for inviting me, Mike.
I'm great.
All right, where should we start? Should we start with knots or fly line? I guess we'll start. Let's go with fly line first, guys. What's the difference and what should we need to know about all the different fly lines out there? Now, I will say this, when I went in to buy new fly line for this one, as I just did replace it, guys, the old one was getting real cracked. Let's see if I can kind of show you. I should have brought the old one with me, but there's kind of a sheathing there, and it should be looking smooth, correct, Todd?
Yeah, if it cracks, what starts to happen is it'll start to sink that little section that's cracking. You're getting water into the core of the line. And so if your line's starting to crack, it's time to look at a new line.
And that's what I noticed on my new line. Well, I walked into Trout's, guys, the local fly shop that used to be down in Denver, keyword used to be. I walked in there and I was kind of overwhelmed by all the fly lines on the wall up there. I didn't know which one to grab. I saw so many that said 5WFT this and double taper that and 6-weight and 4-weight and 8-weight, and I was kind of a little overwhelmed. So I want to kind of step into that and break that down a little bit with these two gentlemen. What do we need to know? What's the first thing that we should know about fly line?
First thing we need to know about fly lines is which one you need. And you'll probably get a rod and then need to match it with the proper fly line for it. And the rod's going to tell you this is a 9-foot rod and it requires a 5-weight line. The reason that's important is lines, the 5 doesn't mean pound test, it doesn't mean anything. It's an arbitrary figure that was given to it so that it will match the rod you're using. Line weights go from 0 weight up to 18 weight. The most common weights are 4, 5, 6 for Colorado. If you're doing saltwater fishing, it's 7, 8, 9. If you're doing pan fishing and little trout, it's 2 and 3. So that number just matches the action on your rod. And the reason that's important is the rod casts the line. The rod does not cast the fly. Flies don't weigh enough. You get into some of these tube jigs and stuff and they got a little weight to them, but it's not like spin fishing. So you got to get the stress on the rod, the bend on the rod, from the right weight fly line.
All right, we're back, guys. We had to take a quick time out there, quick pause. Had to get some more utensils, some more tools so that we could show you guys what we were talking about. Now, when we left off, I believe we were talking about identifying fly lines, walking in the store and seeing the different letters. And I believe Mike was about to break down what exactly some of that stuff meant on the box.
Great. So, like we talked about earlier, off your rod, you will get the weight of line you need. It's going to say 5. It's going to say 6, it's going to say 3, whatever the rod is you have, it's designed to work with a line created for it.
Now, let me pause real quick because I saw something right there. Guys, if you notice on this rod, this one has the 5WT standing for 5 weight, and this one here has fly line number 8. It's the same thing. 5WT number 8 with number 5 would be the same thing as 5WT. It's the same weight. That's all they're talking about.
That's
correct?
all they're talking about.
It's the same thing. So,
and as the number goes up, the line is heavier in bigger situations. As it goes down, it's lighter. as Mike said, bluegills, 2 and 3 weight, the bonefish, all that stuff, 8, 7 and 8s.
So as Rocky stated earlier, you go in the store and there's retailers make a whole lot of money on fly lines. That's a good item for them. So they're going to carry a whole bunch of them. And you're going to look at it and you're not going to have a clue. One of them's going to say WF8I. One of them is going to say DT4F.
Let's see this one, get a little closer.
What is it you need? I mean,
the BT4F.
what you need in our case was a 5 weight. And so you go to the 5 weight lines and you're going to see the first 2 letters indicate the shape of the line. There's 3 basic shapes offered. L is level. Don't buy it no matter what. It's cheaper and it is no good.
Well, if you ever see it for $6, buy it and take it home and wrap packages with it, because that's the only thing it's good for.
What makes? Why do they make it? What's so? I guess why wouldn't you want to use
A
it?
level line is a 5 weight line, but it's the same diameter through the 90 feet of the line.
Okay.
Everything's the same.
How is that a drawback?
That's a drawback because you generally want taper in the end of the line. That helps you build momentum and gets the line, even though it's a 5 weight, they'll load up the line on the end of the line to get it to create more speed. It makes it easier for you to cast.
So if
Level doesn't have that, it's hard to cast.
So if you took a weight forward and you felt the first 30 feet or so there's more weight up at the front, and the last 60 is kind of the running line. So you've got the weight of the line. Think about when you're casting, you've got 20 or 30 feet of line out. You throw that back, that's going to load your rod. That's going to give you power.
Can we go back? That's not right. So can we go back on that?
Go back on that. Go back on that.
Okay,
That wasn't
so
right.
the
We're going
first
back on that.
30 feet of the fly line is where the taper is. But a lot of the weight and taper is in the first couple feet of the line. This is where they load it up. Then it tapers out or stays level, depending on whether you buy a weight forward line, which is WF, which is what you should be buying.
So he's talking about right there, the WF weight forward. Let's see, I'll actually show you this one too. This is actually looking at the box. There's your weight forward right there. That's what he's talking about, the
Okay.
WF.
So generally anymore, the manufacturers change colors at the taper. And the taper is within the first 30 feet. Okay? Then the rest of the line and a weight forward line is what's called running line, and it's just level. The first 60 feet is what, the first 30 feet is what's giving you the weight, and then the rest of it is just meant so that it passes through the rod easier. Another type of line, and I won't unfurl it, is what's called double taper. And double taper is very good for delicate presentations. The lighter line weights, you just generally don't see double taper above a 6. It's the 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. And it has this same tapering in the first 30 feet. And then it goes level for 30 feet. And then the backside has the same taper. Double taper was invented because it tends to be a little more delicate, but it also allows you to buy one line. use one side for a year or two, turn it around, you got a brand new line. Because they're the same thing. 30 feet is the same, 30 feet is running, 30 feet is the same. On a wakeboard, 30 feet is the tapered, 60 feet is the running. Okay, so not trying to confuse you too much. We talked about getting the right line weight and the right taper. Those are the first two things you'll see on the box. DT is the taper, 4 is the weight. The last thing you have to decide is how you're going to fish. If you're fishing in Colorado on rivers and ponds, most of your fishing will be accomplished with a floating line, which is marked F. So we have a double taper, 4 weight floating line. But if you want to fish lakes or big rivers and you want to get flies down, we come into a whole new category called sinking. The general category is sinking, S. So it would be WF6S, meaning your line's going to sink. It's not going to float. What's good about that is it gets your fly down to deeper depths. If you need to fish deeper depths, you want a sinking line. The trouble with that is if you're not fishing deep, it's hard to control, especially in moving water, a sinking line. Once it goes, has different rates to sink, it goes down and it's down. Generally, in Colorado trout fishing, sinking lines are what are used for what's called streamer flies, or flies that represent minnows. All the other flies you've heard about, floating flies or dry flies, emerging flies or wet flies or emergers, and flies on the bottom of a river, which most of our rivers, you're not going to fish the river deeper than 5 or 6 feet. Those can be reached best with a floating line, and those are nymphs and, like I said earlier, wet flies and emergers. You can control the line because the line on the water floats, and you can use techniques to control the line so the line doesn't drag the fly. On a streamer, it doesn't matter. If the current's dragging the streamer, that's just fine. It'll get it to the point you want it in, and you'll retrieve it, and it'll look like a minnow, and that 8-pound brown trout eats it.
I'm still waiting on that day. I'm still waiting on that day.
Let's talk about sinking real quick, and I don't want to get too confusing about it. But basically, the category is sink, but there are combinations. Some guys like, for rivers, they like a line where only the front portion of the fly line sinks. And those are going to be called sink tips, and they're going to be marked F/S.
Forward sink.
For floating sinking.
Okay, floating sinking. Okay,
Part of the line floats, the tip sinks.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's a specialty line. It's very good. If you're get to be a hardcore fisherman, you'll use some kind of sink tip at some point. There is an option to that I'll point out in a minute.
And that's kind of why we left those out there. I had some questions about these ones too.
So that's good. A lot of guys who fish lakes like lines that sink. Like a great example of this is spinny or Antero.
Antero, that's what I was thinking, Antero.
And they don't want the line on the surface because the fish can sometimes get shadowed by that and spook. So what they like is what's called an intermediate sink. That's
This one, the eye. That's what I was wondering what that was one for.
This is a weight forward, 8-weight intermediate sink. That means the whole line sinks slowly. Usually 1 to 2 feet every 2-3 seconds. Pretty slow sinking. Then you go to the other side of that, and there's people like that go to Pyramid Lake in Nevada, or some saltwater striper fishermen love high density sink lines, and that's just what they're called. They're called fast sink or high density, and they'll sink at a much faster rate. You can also buy those in a full sinking line, or you can buy them in just a sink tip. And usually when we're talking about sink tips, it's just the last 10 feet is built in. You get close to where the leader's attached, and the last 10 feet, this will be treated. It's not treated. It's denser. It's made. Floating fly lines have bubbles in the core. That's how they produce them. They're called micro bubbles. Sinking lines don't have that in the sinking portion of the line. They're denser. So there's less surface to catch the line that goes down.
Oh, that makes sense. It goes down smoother. It goes down smoother. It cuts through the water a lot faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we probably got you reeling here, but if you'll go through it again, I think all of it makes sense. Let's make it easy. If you haven't bought the rod, buy a 9-foot 5-weight. If you haven't bought the line, buy a 9-foot 5-weight floating line.
9-foot 5-weight.
Before we leave sinking, these have become popular, and they are good. And basically what these are, if you don't want to buy both a floating, but you think you're going to want to fish streamers, this attaches where we attach leaders to line, and we'll talk about that in just a second. This is the knot that we put the leader on the end of the fly line, and they all come with some kind of loop, or you make some type of loop. You have the ability to turn your floating line into a sinking line. This is a medium sink, 12 foot, and it attaches right here, and it makes your fly line longer, but it becomes, this is 12, most of them are 10. It becomes a sink tip line. And the cost of these lines these days are going to cost you $70 to $100.
Easy.
And these are going to cost you $10. And they work good.
And when you don't need it, you take it off, wrap it up, put it back in the package.
Now I have these guys. I've never knew what they were for, so these guys literally just blew my mind with it today. So, and just to break it down just a little bit more, I believe there is one more. This one is a medium sink, as you can see, the 4 IPS. If you don't know, or if you're wondering,
4 inches per second.
And this one again is a slow sink, which is 3 inches per second. And I think there was a fast sink that was more like 5 or 6 seconds, but those are also available too. Just a quick note on how to read those and stuff.
And the way you read sink rates is intermediate, slow, medium, fast, high density. That's the different rates. High density is the fastest sinking, or some companies will call it extra fast.
And you can get these in all those as well. All those methods. Okay.
These have become, not getting too crazy, but this stuff is being used more and more in competition nymphing. Some people call it Euro nymphing.
Okay.
Where they use the longer rods and they use what's called a tight line approach. and they can vary their depths by changing tips and things like that. We won't wait forward 5 floats.
If
Sorry
you
to get
need
us off track.
one line, wait forward, floating.
Sorry.
And so, just to get into this real quick, this is the leader. Leaders come packaged. And all good fly lines will have some type of loop built into the fly line. It comes, believe me, it does come on.
Sorry.
No.
I'm new here.
It comes off and it also comes on. This is your leader. This is how you'll buy it. It'll have a loop on it.
The leaders, guys, they will come in different lengths. This
We'll
one is
talk
a
about
7.5.
that in a
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, that one we're not gonna.
Okay.
This is how it'll come when you decide what leader you need. The leader has a loop. You take the fly line loop, you take the leader loop, you just put the tip of it through there. Then you go grab. These are all tapered leaders. They get finer and finer and finer as they go to where they get down to match up to the fly you're using. This is exactly the same thing as a weight forward line. It's taper. Closer to the line, it's stiff to create speed. Toward the end of the line, it's thinner to create delicacy. When you want to attach the two together, you just put the tip of the leader through the leader loop that's through the line, and you pull it tight. Voila! You have attached your leader to the fly line.
Really quickly.
And it's a good method. Loops didn't used to come on lines, and you had to use goofy different things to do it, but the manufacturers have all realized they need to make it as easy as possible. Some people will tell you there's other things that are better than loops. Weight forward 5 floating. Use this. Yes, we can get more technical, but you're better off just using a loop. I use loops, and I've been fly fishing for a long time.
I got a quick question on that. Going back to our fly lines, do fly lines come available without loops or with loops, or do they all come standard with a loop?
It's hard to find them today without a loop. It really is. It's usually an off-brand, cheap, level kind of line, and then you got to go through a way of attaching this. If you have a fly line without a loop, go to Orvis has on their website, they have an endless supply of tutorials. Endless. Thousands. And look up needle nail knot. And it'll show you exactly how to do it. But
Everything.
Okay, I think it was still recording. I just didn't see if it was or not. I wanted to make sure. Sorry for last intermission.
so, leaders are sold separately. They're sold in packages. You can buy 1 packs, 2 packs, 3 packs. The first thing you got to determine is the length of the leader and then the size. The length, that's easy. That's 7.5 foot. Easy. 3X. That's not easy. That doesn't mean 3 pound. It means the diameter is a certain diameter, which is 8 thousandths of an inch. We just vary it by the size of flies you're gonna use. The pound test is rated here also. This is 3X, which is just under 6 pound test. You will have to determine if you're fishing really hard fished, clear water, the finer the leader, the better. Leaders go from, in the X category, 0X to 8X. 8 is fine, 0 is very heavy. 0 is usually like a 20 pound test. 8 is like a 1.5 pound test. 9 foot 5 weight. The simple part here is, for Colorado, if you're fishing Charlie Myers or Spinney or Cheeseman Canyon, you're going to use smaller flies, 20s and 22s, and you're going to use 6X. If you're fishing the Colorado River with nymphs, you're going to use size 12 on the big size to size 16, and we haven't even explained fly sizes yet, but you'll get into that. And on those, you're going to use more like 4 and 5X. Your standard Colorado leader is going to be a packaged 7.5 foot. 3X is perfect because, as I stated, the leader's tapered. Where it attaches to the line is thicker than where it attaches to the fly. To save money and to be much more versatile and not to be always changing leaders, once we do this, we buy a spool of this. It's that simple. This is nylon tippet material that attaches even the brand new leader. If you've got that 3X leader and you're going to fish flies that need 4X or 5X, attach 18 inches of this to the leader. Every time you change flies, that section of, it's called tippet, that section of tippet gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And usually when it's at like 10 inches, cut it off and put a new piece of tippet material. You can fish the same leader a whole long time just by having this.
So you're telling me you don't tie the flies directly to the leader or buy the leaders 50 at a time?
No.
You can always tell someone who doesn't know how this system or how to tie knots. They go into a fly shop and they buy 4 of these and 4 flies and no tippet. And they're ruining leaders one after another.
So if you do this system, and just again the simple part of it, 7.5 foot leader, get yourself some 3X, 4X, and 5X material. And
That's all you need.
Good for the season. You're going to be great.
Too many people want to buy 9 foot leaders, and in our places where a 9 foot leader comes in handy, Cheeseman Canyon, the Taylor,
Thank you for going into that, because I'm usually the 9 foot guy.
Yeah,
Well, no. Here's the deal, though. You buy a 7.5 foot, you can have as long as leader as you want.
just by building on it.
Just by tapering the leader.
Now,
I haven't bought a 9 foot leader in 20 years. I always start with 7.5. And if I need to get really delicate and build my leader, I build my leader.
so with the leader, what's a good, okay, 3X. 3X you can still taper down to a 5X, correct?
Oh, you can taper it down to 8X.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
that was.
You'd have to do
So
it.
3X is that a general good spot where you could use
Yes.
3X to tie flies onto, and you can still taper down?
Sure.
Or would a 4X be?
Like-
And how would you step that? I guess too. If you have a 3X,
one number or two, no more than two.
no more than 2, up or
more
down.
Down.
Down. You're
Always
not going
down?
up. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why you want to start with a 3.
Okay, see, and that's kind of what I wanted to get into. That's kind of answering my
I'm
question now. I don't know how to word it.
Yeah.
I've been fishing here at the ranch, and the fish aren't quite as sophisticated, and I've been using just 7.5 foot 3X, but I'm putting 3X tippet material, which we don't have
Yeah, I don't
right
have
here,
that.
but that's okay.
Here we go.
The one we're missing.
So if I'm gonna fish here, I got the 7.5 foot leader. I'm gonna put 18 to 24 inches of this on. Done fishing here. I go up and I want to fish in South Park, and the fish in South Park receive a lot of pressure. And
Yeah.
it needs to be. You need to be a little more refined or delicate. Well, I've got my leader, and I've got an 18-inch section of 3X, but I'm going to fish a size 20 fly. Right now I've got a 9-foot leader.
Because he's been building
I'm
on
gonna
it.
Building on it.
18 inches of 5X. That's 2 skips, but you can go 2 skips. And I'll have a 12-foot leader roughly, tapered down
Okay.
to 5 or 6X.
Okay. Now I want to go over something real quick with you guys.
But stop for a second. The beauty is, let's go back to him adding this to this. Don't put your fly on the end of your leader. You're
Okay.
just going to cut into your leader. And then
make
your
that
leader's
short,
gone.
yeah.
Just add on to it.
Okay. One thing I do want to tell you guys is, remember when we say step down, it's kind of going up in numbers as far as X. So the 1X is going to be your thickest. Okay, guys? Your 7X is going to be your thinnest. So
Wow,
when we
very
say
fine.
step down, if we're starting with this 3X, we're not going to try to step down to 1X. We are going to step down up into our 7X or our 4 and 5 maybe, and then if we step it down, let's say if we go from the 3X leader to the 5X tippet, we can then step it down either to the 6 or to the 7X tippet.
You
As
can
he said, you
one
at least
number
one
or
or
two.
2, nothing max. So if you're at a 3X leader, you don't want to skip all the way down to a 6X tippet.
But also don't forget level to level. That's where he started. 3X leader to 3X tippet. That's perfectly fine.
Okay.
And it's a way of protecting your leader. You can make that leader last 20 trips.
Okay,
doing
just
that.
by adding your tippet.
Yeah.
And I guess we can keep going down right into knots if you guys are, unless
Well,
you got
let me
anything
just
else
show
to.
this real quick, because Mike's just referred to sizes. Years ago, you'd see some leader packages have this little on the back, but it just shows you what size fly fits what size tippet. It's nice to have that chart somewhere as you're learning.
Okay, definitely things that you. Is there anywhere that you know you can maybe look that up and find that chart? Just in case they, in
easy.
case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you should be looking up maybe what? Probably Orvis might have it on their website.
Orvis would have it, or if you just, Googled matching
You know, tippet to fly size.
tippet
Oh,
to
yeah.
fly size.
Okay.
I mean, as you
Lots of
fish
stuff.
more, you get to know it, and you don't need that little chart. But as you're learning, you do.
And it's definitely something handy to have. Just little notes to look back at, and wondering, oh, maybe why wasn't this fly floating quite right? Well, maybe you had too thick of a tippet or something
And a
like
big
that.
knot.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That was just affecting the drift and stuff like that.
Okay, before we go to knots, real quickly, we've been talking about the material being nylon, which this is. There is a material, and it's called fluorocarbon.
That's one of them.
Yeah, there was you can read it here.
Was it the Power Flex?
No. It's a little hard to read that. This one's good, I think. Yeah. fluoroflex or fluorocarbon. Generally, we're suggesting you just buy this in tippet. Why would you buy this tippet? Well, if you're only going to fish fairly shallow, you're best off staying with nylon. Fluorocarbon, just like many of you have used fluorocarbon in spin fishing, fluorocarbon is a material that has a neutral buoyancy to it. It's denser and it sinks. If you're fishing a floating fly, even on the ponds here or on the river, you don't necessarily want that. You'd want to stay with the nylon. But nymph fishing is a big deal in Colorado. I primarily nymph fish. I love the nymph fish, and that's fishing underwater. And I will always use a floating a nylon leader. But then for my tippet, and I carry both with me, but if I want to fish underwater and get the best drift, plus fluorocarbon reacts, I'm forgetting the terms right now, I've been out of the sales stuff for 3 or 4 years, but it blends better into the water. It's a neutral color, and it does, the light passes through it better, and it blends in. And so if the fish are really picky, most guys fish in the really tough spots with the Henry's Fork and the really particular rivers, the Cheeseman Canyon, will fish nymphs, and they'll fish fluorocarbon for the tippet, and it does add to your success. So
it also adds to your wallet because it's more expensive.
It's much more expensive, where this is going to cost you $4.95. This is going to cost you $10-12. So
okay,
it is different that way, but there is a need for it. But for right now, just keep it simple. Weight 4 or 5 floating on a 7.5 foot 3X leader with 3, 4, 5X nylon tippet.
well, I guess let's go right into connecting them all. Let's start showing some knots on. Basically, if you get your leader with no loop, and that's a simple one. See if I could even do it. Overhand here. When you're on camera, it's kind of sketchy, huh? Here. Overhand.
Scooch it up and make it a little smaller.
I fucked that up somewhere. Oh. I fucked it up somewhere, but I think I got it right.
Now, this would be the one that Rocky showed you. And again, buy your fly line with a loop on it.
Buy your leader with a loop on it.
And if something happens, you can always do this.
There you go. That's what I was trying to do. That's why I let the professional show you.
Make the loop as small as possible. The big drawback to this is this giant knot.
Scissors, rock, where did you put those?
Let me see those forceps. There we go.
And then you tighten it. And then clench
Tighten it. And then cut it. The problem with this, again, is that loop will get hung up in your guides, but if you have to do it, you have to do it.
Yeah, you inadvertently cut the loop off, or you buy one, have fly line without a loop.
Some of the laminate loops will come loose at times. The scissors aren't too sharp, but
we need some new ones. I think I got some clippers up there if they'll work.
So you end up with something like this.
And that's
Lord.
and even guys is what is the reason why that knot is a good knot to know too. Let's just say for some odd reason this thing breaks or you catch on a tree in the back and this is cut in half or something happens, it gets a big old wind knot. But you have a few spools of this, some of that. You could actually build this up, is what they were talking about when they were saying building your own leader. If you're out and you have to do what you do, but you got the tippet to do it, that's a good knot to know. So that in your first size of tippet, whatever you're going to start with, which what would be if you're stepping
for Colorado, 7.5 foot 3X.
3X. So what would you, if you had to build a leader from scratch out in the open, what size tippet would you start with that loop knot?
Oh, 0 or 1 or whatever you have.
0 or 1? Okay.
Whatever
Start
you
with the
have.
thickest tippet, I guess, and step it down if you had to do that. But again, that's just a good knot to know. Just in case something happens to your leaders, you don't have none, they're back up at the truck and you have to make one on the fly or out on, out on the river. You can tie that knot up real quick and start building your own leader if you needed to. So, I think that's it with that knot. What other knots do we need to know? Leader to tippet, right, would be our next one.
Improved surgeons.
Improved surgeons?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, so 2 different colors for that one?
Sure.
So that would be fly line. Would be coming in my right hand, guys. We'll use it this one. This would be your leader. Oh,
Tippet.
tippet. This would be your leader, sorry. Leader, tippet, overlap them.
And it's important to make sure if you're a right-handed person that you have it set up the right way. I'll show you that in a minute, okay?
I believe I always go right over left here.
Yeah, make a loop.
Okay, I always go here.
Cross it over.
Come on, big baby.
Tidy it up.
Hold on, Todd. Don't yell at me.
No, you're good.
I feel like my buddy Tyler now. Todd's yelling at me because I'm always yelling at him. Once.
Here's why it was important to start as a right-handed with the leader in your right hand. It's connected to a 9-foot fly rod. If you had it the other way, it's a booger to get a 9-foot fly rod through that loop.
Okay. What if you're left-handed?
Reverse it. Do what you've done their whole life. Reverse it. Look for the figure 8 when
And
you
that's
clinch
right
that
there.
knot. Yep.
So that's what he's talking about, that figure 8. And
Get it
then
wet
usually,
to slide it.
yep, usually you would wet it, but you just keep cinching down. Pull on both ends here, both tag ends.
And then cut the tag ends with a little visible tag. You don't want to cut them flush because if you didn't get your knot tight enough, it could come loose. So just leave a visible tag.
These will cut them, huh? It might not.
You know, there's a zillion knots, and some people love them. You know, to do the Albright, do the nail knot, do the whatever knot. But essentially, when you're starting, you need kind of 2.5 knots. You need to be able to build that loop if you get in trouble. But if you buy a fly line with a loop and leaders with a loop, you don't even need to do that. You need this knot, and then you need the clinch knot, which some people know as the fisherman's knot, similar. And those are the only knots you need. This doesn't need to be hard.
How would you do the clinch knot? I want to know how to show them on that one.
Okay. Well,
Because I would think,
this
okay,
is as your fly.
there you go. So, the battery died on us. Sorry about that, guys. Mike had to step out. But I believe we got up to, pretty sure we got up to where I was showing you that knot there.
Watch for the 8. The 8 tells you that you went through twice.
Okay, and the 8 is what he's talking about right there.
It's 8 before you clinch it.
Clench it. All right. I don't think so. I think we'll retie this one real quick. And I'll probably let Todd do it since you'll probably be a little bit quicker than me. But if you want to just show him a quick, just a regular fisherman's knot, guys. Nothing fancy.
We call it the improved clinch, which makes it a little different than the fisherman's knot. So we go through the eye of the fly. I like to give myself plenty of room. All right, then I like to put my index finger and thumb in front of the eye of the fly, wrap it around 4 or 5 times. Any more than that, the knot's too big. Any less than that, it's not quite tight enough. Then I put the tag through the loop. By doing that, I make it the improved clinch because I've got another loop. I go through that second loop, I lubricate it, I move the knot down to the eye of the fly before I tighten it, just so I don't get a little kink, and then I clinch it. And at that point I would trim the tag to a little visible tag. You want a little tag just so if you didn't get the knot tied all the way down, it's got a little give. But that's it.
Okay. Now, I think you use the improved. I think I'm a guy that just loves the regular. I only go through once. Yeah, I only go through once. I don't know why. I have better luck with it, guys. Feel free to use either one, though. I just kind of wanted to throw that in there because I know in a lot of fly fishing videos that I have done before, or anything where I have covered it, or any knots that you see me use or see me tie, it's usually going through once. Just, I believe, what is it, the regular surgeon's knot? Or
No, that's called the clinch knot.
Oh, the clinch knot.
Clinch knot or the fisherman's knot is going through the loop once. The improved is going through it twice, and it's called improved because it's twice as good.
And
Wink.
Tyler, aka the Blazer, he's huge on the improved. You'll always see him do the improved. You'll always see me just do the regular fisherman's knot. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. I just have better luck with that. So just want to throw that in there.